I stood in the corner of my grandparents' backyard watching my family laugh and talk like I was invisible. The smell of grilled burgers filled the air. Children ran across the freshly cut grass. Everyone seemed happy. Everyone except me. For 10 years, every family reunion felt like walking into a courtroom where I had already been found guilty. My Aunt Linda looked at me from across the yard, her eyes carrying that familiar mix of pity and contempt. But that afternoon, everything changed. Before I begin this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you have ever felt underestimated by the people who should believe in you the most, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. This story might feel personal to you. Stay with me because what happened next is something I will never forget. To understand what happened at that reunion, I need to take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old. I still remember that morning when my father packed his bags and walked out the door without looking back. My mother, Karen, raised me on her own after that. She worked as a cashier at a local supermarket, putting in long hours just to keep food on our table and a roof over our heads. She never complained. Not once. But I could see the exhaustion in her eyes every night when she came home. My father, Gerald, came from a family with money. My grandparents owned the largest furniture store in our town. It had been in the family for 3 generations. When my father married my mother, his family never approved. My mother did not have a college degree. She came from a working-class background. To them, she was not good enough for their son. After the divorce, my father remarried within 2 years. His new wife came from a respectable family, as my Aunt Linda liked to say. My father slowly faded from my life. He would call on birthdays sometimes. He would show up at Christmas occasionally. But he was never really there. Not when I needed help with homework. Not when I got sick. Not when I graduated from high school. Despite everything, I was still invited to family gatherings on my father's side. My mother would dress me in my best clothes and drive me to my grandparents' house. She never came inside. She would wait in the car or come back to pick me up later. Looking back now, I understand why. She knew she was not welcome there. At those gatherings, I always felt like an outsider looking in, like I was a guest in my own family. And then there was Derek. Derek was my cousin, the son of my Aunt Linda. He was 2 years older than me, and from the moment I can remember, he was the golden child of our family. Everything Derek did was perfect. Everything Derek achieved was celebrated. He got straight A grades in school. He won academic competitions. He received scholarships. Every family gathering turned into a showcase of Derek accomplishments. I was an average student. My grades were decent, but nothing special. I preferred drawing and tinkering with computers over studying textbooks. I was quiet, often lost in my own world of ideas and imagination. I remember one specific moment that stayed with me all these years. I was 12 years old. I had won 3rd place in a school art competition. It was not a grand achievement, but it meant the world to me. I had spent weeks working on that painting. When I arrived at my grandparents' house for Sunday dinner, I could not wait to share the news. I walked up to my grandfather, holding the small trophy in my hands. Before I could even finish my sentence, Aunt Linda interrupted me. She announced loudly that Derek had just been accepted into an elite summer program with a full scholarship. Everyone turned their attention to Derek. My grandfather patted Derek on the back. My grandmother hugged him. The room erupted in congratulations. Nobody asked about my trophy. Nobody even looked at it. I glanced at my mother, who was standing near the doorway waiting to pick me up. Her eyes met mine, and I saw something that broke my heart. It was pain. The pain of watching her son be dismissed and forgotten. That night, she held me close and told me that she was proud of me. She said my painting was beautiful. She said I was special, no matter what anyone else thought. Years passed, and the pattern continued. Derek excelled in everything traditional. He graduated top of his class in high school. He got into a prestigious university. He pursued a business degree and later an MBA. With every achievement, Aunt Linda made sure everyone knew about it. Meanwhile, I went to college for computer science. I enjoyed it at first, but after 2 years, I realized something important. The most valuable things I was learning did not come from lectures or textbooks. They came from the projects I built on my own, the apps I created, The problems I solved by myself late at night in my dorm room. At 20 years old, I made a decision that would change my life forever. I decided to drop out of college. I had an idea for a software product, a platform that would help small businesses manage their operations more efficiently. I believed in it completely. I knew I could build it. I just needed time and focus. My mother was worried, but she supported me. She always did. She told me to follow my heart and work hard. The family reaction was different. At the next reunion, word had spread that I had dropped out. When I walked into my grandparents' house, I could feel the judgment in the air. Aunt Linda wasted no time. She stood in the middle of the living room and said loudly so everyone could hear that she had heard I quit school. She asked what I planned to do with my life now. Then she said something that cut deeper than any knife could. She said I was going to end up a nobody, just like my mother. The room went quiet. Some people looked away uncomfortably. Others smirked. My grandfather shook his head slowly, disappointment written all over his face. My father was there that day, one of his rare appearances. He said nothing. He did not defend me. He did not even look at me. Derek walked over with a smug smile on his face. He patted my shoulder and told me good luck flipping burgers, cousin. I did not respond. I could not. The words were stuck in my throat, blocked by the lump of hurt and humiliation. I found my mother outside, waiting in the car. I got in without saying a word. She saw the tears I was trying to hide. She did not ask what happened. She just drove us home in silence and made me my favorite dinner that night. That night, lying in my bed, I made a silent promise to myself. I would prove them all wrong, not for revenge, not for validation, but because I knew my worth even if they could not see it. The next 3 years were the hardest of my life. I worked from a tiny bedroom in a small apartment I could barely afford. The rent was $400 a month, and even that was a struggle sometimes. My mother helped me during the worst months, sending whatever she could spare from her paycheck. I hated taking her money, but I needed it to survive. During the day, I worked on my product. I coded for hours, debugging, redesigning, starting over when things did not work. At night, I took freelance jobs, building websites for local businesses. I would work until 2 or 3 in the morning, then wake up at 7 to start all over again. I ate cheap food, instant noodles, canned soup, day-old bread from the discount bin at the grocery store. There were nights when I only had coffee for dinner because I had spent my last $10 on a software license I needed. After 6 months of work, my first product failed. The market was not ready for it. I had made mistakes in understanding what customers actually needed. 6 months of my life gone. All that work wasted. I sat alone in my apartment that night, staring at my computer screen, wondering if everyone was right. Maybe I was a failure. Maybe I should have stayed in school. Maybe I should just give up and get a regular job. But then I thought about Aunt Linda's smirk, Derek condescending pat on my shoulder, the way my grandfather looked at me with disappointment. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Then I opened a new document and started planning my next product. I never told anyone about my struggles. When my mother asked how things were going, I always said everything was fine. I did not want her to worry. She had spent her whole life worrying about me. I wanted to give her peace, not more stress. The family reunions continued during those years, and they remained painful. When I was 23, Derek graduated with his MBA from a top business school. Aunt Linda threw a massive celebration and invited the entire family. I went, even though every part of me wanted to stay home. I wore jeans and a plain t-shirt because I did not own a suit. I could not afford one. The moment I walked in, Aunt Linda looked me up and down. She asked loudly if I was still playing with computers in my bedroom. Several relatives laughed. Derek had just been hired by a major financial firm with a starting salary in the 6 figures. He talked about his new apartment in the city, his company car, his signing bonus. My grandfather pulled me aside at one point. He told me I should learn from Derek. He said Derek had a real job, a real future. He said maybe it was not too late for me to go back to school and make something of myself. I just nodded and said I would think about it. When I was 26, things had started to change for me, though nobody in my family knew it. My company, which I had named Next Tier Solutions, was finally gaining traction. I had rebuilt my product from scratch, listened to customer feedback, and created something that businesses actually wanted. I had my first 10 paying customers, then 50, then 100. Revenue was growing every month. I had hired my first employee, a young developer who believed in my vision. But I kept everything secret. At that year family reunion, Aunt Linda asked her usual question. She wanted to know if I had found a real job yet or if I was still waiting for my big break. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. Derek was there now, a mid-level manager at his company. He talked about his new BMW. He showed everyone pictures on his phone. He talked about his vacation in Europe and his investment portfolio. One of my uncles asked me what I did for work. Before I could answer, Aunt Linda jumped in. She said I did something with computers, nothing serious. Everyone moved on to other topics. I sat there in silence, swallowing my anger. My mother squeezed my hand under the table. She whispered that she knew the truth. She said she was proud of me. That was enough for that day. By the time I turned 28, everything had changed. Next Tier Solutions received a Series A investment of $5 million. We moved into real office space.